All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and man, what a big upset this weekend. But we also got a warning that there could be a big upset coming this next week as well, in a fight between Gervonta Davis and ISAAN Cruz. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. Man, what a great weekend of fights. Huge upset, which always makes boxing even a little bit more fun to watch. Teofimo Lopez gets beaten by George Kambosos in what I think was a one-sided fight. Teofimo Lopez, for some strange reason, agrees with me, but he agrees with me in the wrong direction, thinking that he actually won the fight. But in an interview that took place right before the fight, Gary Russell Jr. was asked about the upcoming fight this weekend with Gervonta Davis versus ISAAN Cruz, and his prediction for the fight, man, was really, really surprising, because he said, look, man, this guy Isaac Cruz is better than a lot of people think. And he is, he's a come-forward fighter. He's a tough fighter. He said he's seen him fight before and watched him fight before, and that Gervonta Davis has to be very, very careful with him. And he said, look, man, this fight between those two guys can be very, very close and a difficult fight for Gervonta Davis in the first half of the fight. He said in the first half of the fight, which tells me, that ultimately he believes that Gervonta Davis is going to win. That Gervonta Davis is going to win the fight. But I'm telling you, man, upsets in boxing, and this may be just a little bit of superstition, man, kind of like, one of those superstitions that say, when somebody that people die in threes, right? That like you find somebody passed away, just keep your eyes out because somebody else is going to pass away shortly behind them. And they say it usually happens in threes. That's just kind of old wives' tale that if you keep your eye for it, man, it doesn't seem like it's too off. Well, big time upsets, man, those guys get contagious because guys see one upset and they're like, man, George Kambosos didn't have, not a lot. Everybody wrote George Kambosos off against Teofimo Lopez. Here I'm coming against Gervonta Davis. And if he had any doubts in his mind that big upsets can happen, may absolutely ignite ISAAN Cruz and catch Gervonta Davis slipping. Now, I don't think that that's going to happen because Gervonta Davis has been looking very disciplined in his last several fights. But, when Gervonta was interviewed by Fight Hype during his workout, and he was asked about the fights, about the Devin Haney fight, about the George Kambosos fight, he was just like, easy work, easy work. Like, George Kambosos is going to be easy work for Teofimo Lopez. He says Jojo Diaz is going to be easy work for Devin Haney, right? And then the question was asked of Gervonta Davis, and they said, well, so easy work for you? And he kind of smiled or whatever, right, and laughed. He didn't say it was going to be easy work, but, just kind of laughed at it, man. So, I'm certainly hoping that he is taking this guy ISAAN Cruz a lot more seriously than Teofimo Lopez did. Now, there's nothing that I've seen out of Gervonta Davis that reminds me of what was going on with Teofimo Lopez, because the warning signs were all there for Teofimo Lopez. From the fact that he said that he didn't have any game plan at all for George Kambosos, to him saying that it was going to be a first round knockout. Also, the fact that he said that it was pretty well reported that he had a lot of difficulty making weight, right? So I mean, who knows what he did to drain his body down to get there to 135, but more than likely the reason that he had those difficulties in making 135 is because of stuff that he was doing out of the ring in between the fights, with all the taking an entire year layoff, all of that stuff, at ring rust, lack of conditioning, taking another fighter, taking the fighter for granted, being very, very arrogant and thinking that you've made it, right, and and not really staying in the gym and really staying like you're a hungry fighter. Like, if you look at the way that Terrence Crawford prepares for fights, and it may be because Terrence Crawford has never gotten the accolades or really gotten the over the top type of appreciation that people were giving Teofimo Lopez that made him stay in the gym, stay grinding and all that stuff. That's how those guys wind up having a lot of longevity and staying on top. Same thing for guys like Vasily Lomachenko, who's just always grinding in the gym, very, very focused on boxing. Canelo Alvarez is the same way, man. And so it just seemed like Teofimo Lopez got shifted off into the commercial side of it and trying to get, this sponsorship and that sponsorship, and was really focused much more on being a star than he was being a fighter. I've not seen any of that out of Gervonta Davis. And in fact, I've seen the opposite of it, where, at 130 pounds, it seemed like, when you saw Gervonta Davis in between fights, he looked like, he looked like the Pillsbury Doughboy. It was really, really, very, very full face, very, very full body. Looked like he was walking around at about 5'6", 170 pounds, right? And so he had to come way down up off of all that weight during training camp, and and actually had missed weight at the for the the original belt I think he held was the IBF, so he lost the IBF championship on the scale. And then the WBA, for like 2 fights, getting on the scale at 130 pounds, he had difficulty making weight. But then after that, he got his act together. If you see him in between fights now, he does not look fat. He does not look, full-faced and all of that. He also has, had a while to adjust to the stardom that he has. And so, I don't think that, at this point in time, I think that he's settled into a lot of people knowing his name, him being famous, and he doesn't seem like he's the type of guy that is, overly concerned with going out there and trying to get endorsements and all of that. Even in his Instagram, because I follow his Instagram. Even his Instagram is a lot more subdued, a lot more laid back. He's not flipping on people in his Instagram anymore. In the interviews, he seems a lot more tight, like a lot more professional in his interviews. So I'm not sure, is he 25, 26? Might be going on 27 years old. But somewhere in that range, a few years older than than Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez and those guys. So it seems like, he's been a pro a lot longer and a lot less likely, for that type of, for an upset to take place because, just because, of what he's doing, which I think, I want to give George Kambosos, his credit for going in there and beating Teofimo Lopez, because he performed very, very well, had a great game plan. But, I just think that a lot of that has to do with Teofimo Lopez's lack of true preparation and a really good mindset moving into the fight. And also, it could also be because, Teofimo Lopez is just not as good a fighter as people thought he was. With Gervonta Davis, I'm not worried about an upset in that regard. I have watched ISAAN Cruz. ISAAN Cruz has very fast hands. He definitely can crack. He's a come forward fighter. And when somebody fights like that, you definitely have to worry about him hitting you with that one shot that can get you out of there or really hurt you. So I do think that is present there with ISAAN Cruz. I don't think ISAAN Cruz is going to come in there shy. I don't think he's coming in there to get a paycheck. However, I think, and I've seen him fight southpaws, right? I made sure the fight that I watched had a southpaw in it to see how he matched up, and I think that was Jesse Magdaleno. Now, Magdaleno obviously is not the level of a Gervonta Tank Davis. However, that particular southpaw stance didn't cause him any problem. Got him out of there, something nasty with really big shots. But the question that Gervonta Davis said, which is a reasonable question, is, what are you going to do when them things are flying back at you, right? So anyway, I don't think it's going to be an upset, but man, I certainly hope that Gervonta Davis looks at this. I hope it doesn't, that there aren't upsets in 3, because there were 3 fights: Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, and Gervonta Davis, and we already got one of those upsets. So anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section, and with that, I'm out. Peace.